When should you tell a girl that you're politically conservative?
Oh my God.
This day and age, rip the Band-Aid off first. What's interesting is on the dating apps, as you see that, and the girls, especially the left-leaning girls, they'll say things in their dating profile. If you voted for the orange Cheeto, swipe left. If you voted for that guy,
No, it's true.
swipe left. If you're a Trumper, swipe left. If you're MAGA, swipe left. And just kind of nasty, antagonistic type of things like that in their profile. And you go, oh, yeah, she sounds mentally sane. On to the next. So, I mean, I talked about in 3% Man, you really shouldn't talk about politics. It's true. But, I mean, this day and age, since the 2016 election and how polarized things are, it's just better not to delay that. It's better to just get it out in the open and have that discussion. And if she's a lefty, I mean, do you really want to date a girl that she's a jack in the box, basically? Because, I mean, all you have to do is go to Twitter or Instagram or especially TikTok, libs of TikTok, and see some of the reactions that people have in the left, or even in the news. They just lose their minds when they find out that you lean right or you're conservative. So you might as well piss her off in the beginning, and if she can deal with it, cool, go take her out on a date. She'll probably sleep with you because she'll like the fact that you got your own opinions and you go against the grain. I did a video newsletter. I was talking to a client of mine I've been coaching for several years now, and there was a video newsletter I did called, it was like last year or the year before. It was called My Green-Haired Man-Hating Feminist Girlfriend. Something along those lines. My green-haired, man-hating feminist girlfriend. The dude even wrote the title in it. And so this particular guy was a police officer. He was a detective. And so he met this girl who actually was the woman that wrote me the email. And so she was a far-left liberal, had green hair, made herself unattractive like a lot of those girls do, and drank the commie Kool-Aid and the feminist Kool-Aid, the boss girl Kool-Aid, and the whole nine yards. And so during the legal proceedings that the detective was helping her with, it was strictly professional. But when it was all finished, he invited her out on a date because they got to know each other, and she went out with him. And this guy, she didn't, I can't remember, it was like 8 or 9 months into the relationship. She was like, this guy was just perfect. He's the most amazing man I'd ever dated. He was flawless. And one day she was like, wanted to know, like, what was his secret? How did he just always know how to understand her and open her up? And why he was just blew away every guy she'd ever been with prior to that. And he shared the book, and she read it. And over time, because he provided a container of masculinity, she felt safe, and she tended to gravitate more towards his views. She grew her hair out. She looks very feminine. They've since obviously gotten married and lived happily ever after. And so the email in that video newsletter was a success story of how a 3% man changed her life from this crazy far left type of girl to a more conservative, family-oriented type of woman who left behind all the nonsense, the commie nonsense that she was indoctrinated to, because she met a guy who knew how to actually be a man with her. So it was a good story.
And they lived happily ever after.
And they did. They lived happily ever after. Like I said, go check it out. It's called My Feminist Man-Hating Girlfriend. I believe that was the title. So if you just Google that, Corey Wayne, My Feminist Man-Hating Girlfriend, it's a really, really cool story.
No, but definitely those things, like, you have to be clear from the start. Like, if that, like you said, like, if that person hates you for it, that's their problem. But it's just really annoying how people nowadays use politics for, like, everything. Me, it's stupid. But even then, like, I know people whose parents are, like, one of them is conservative, the other is liberal, and they still work it out. It's just a matter of being mature about it and not taking things way too sensitively like a lot of people are nowadays.
So the reality is people, especially the last several years, watch the newscasters and the former directors of the CIA and the Defense Intelligence Agency, the director of National Intelligence, what's his name, Jake Clapper, that I think that was, I think it was Clapper. You got Brennan, the former director of the CIA, or going on these channels. Oh, Donald Trump's a fascist. He's totally in Putin's pocket. It's like, I've seen the evidence. It's very compelling and it looks good. Where he's going to be prosecuted. He's going to be removed from office. And they're on CNN and they're having meltdown. Donald Trump's a fascist. It's the end of the world. And people are freaking out on TV. And then because people watch that on TV and are like, wow, you got the director of the CIA, or you got this senator, or a congressperson that's acting kind of wacky on TV. And then people see that and they go, oh, well, my favorite politician is behaving this way, so it's okay for me to behave this way. And so I've had a bunch of phone sessions over the last several years with where you got part of the family that like leans left, and then you got part of the family that's conservative, and there's friction, and you get guys that I've coached that are medical doctors that treat COVID patients, and yet they've got their family members on the left side of their family going, "You're a COVID idiot. You're this or you're that," because the doctors who were treating COVID patients had decided they weren't going to get vaccinated, and their kids weren't going to get vaccinated. And the aunts and the grandparents and the other lefty family members are all raging, calling the doctors who went to medical school that are treating the COVID patients that are making decisions for their own family, and causing friction to the point where the sides of the family aren't even talking because these people watched fake news and believed what they were told, and then they go to their members of their family that are medical doctors and telling them, like, giving them a lecture as if they're even qualified. They think, oh, I saw something on CNN, and so now I'm going to berate my son or my nephew or my son-in-law or my brother or whoever it happens to be. And people see it on TV and they think, well, the problem that globally, the West, Russia, China, everywhere, is too many people still believe that the news is real.
And the funny part about this is that it's those same people that when you go on Instagram or Facebook and you see some political post, they're also the same people that'll tell you to do your research. And yet they only rely on what they hear rather than actually do extensive research. Yeah. And I have experience in this. I studied journalism. I worked in a news station for almost a year. And I've had two friends of mine, which obviously I'm not going to state their names. I've seen one of them. So one instant was that I was on Instagram and I saw a friend of mine. I don't remember what the post was on, but all I remember was that she literally, I know her. She just read the headline. She's like, oh my God, like, what does this person think? I think it had to do something with Trump or something. I don't even remember. Or it was like some other political related stuff. I don't remember. But literally, I could tell she only read the headline, and I'm like, wait a minute. This doesn't sound right. I literally go to Google. I go to the websites that I know are reliable. Because like I said, I've worked at a news station, so they've given us reliable websites to base on for news. And when I checked them, like, by the way, this is what really happened. And I showed it to her, and she's like, oh, yeah, I just read the headline and I freaked out. And then I have another friend who was also the same thing.
Jack in the Box.
He leans liberal. He's more definitely like liberal for sure. That he read something on the internet. I don't remember what website it was, but I'm like, let me make sure, because he's very like, when he sees something and he hears something, he's like, oh, this is it. And I checked, like for example, I checked Associated Press, because that one, I would say that one is definitely good for like straightforward news. It's not left or right. Because I know
news stations lean left though.
They do?
All of them.
Because I knew a news stations
the bias seeps in there. Most of the people in the news and on TV and the media, Hollywood, they all lean left. Because you can't help if you've got the majority of the people in the media lean a certain way, their views of the world, their reality filter is going to make it into their reporting. Just like same thing with conservative people. You watch people on Fox. You look at like somebody like Sean Hannity, which I'm not a fan of, and it's like every night, oh, Joe Biden did this. When Obama was in office, oh, Obama did this. This is an outrage. He should resign. And it's just every night. Or you get Rachel Maddow on the left. Trump's a fascist. It's the end of the world.
And here's the thing too, with news websites, they're always constantly changing. And like I said, the news station I worked at, they use Associated Press. But even if I check Associated Press, I still check on other news platforms to make sure the stories stay consistent. Mm-hmm. So that's another thing. But I usually use Associated Press because when something's going on, they're always constantly, like, if it's a developing story, they're always constantly changing the article. So maybe another factor that
Science
plays...
evolves.
The factor that also plays with that is that, say, if something new's just developing, right, and say maybe they have a few paragraphs already written, maybe at that time the person saw that, but for all you know, maybe an hour or two later, the information changes completely, and they go based off of what they read maybe like 10 minutes into the story being published.
It's like a game of telephone.
Yeah. And back to what I was saying with my friend. So he was like freaking out about this, and I'm like, wait a minute, let me make sure it's consistent. Turns out it was the complete opposite of what he found. And I'm like, hey, this is what I saw, and I made sure it was consistent with other websites I've been to. And he's like, oh, okay. Because moral of the story, if you're gonna freak out over a headline, before you freak out, make sure you do your research, because it's something so simple, only takes 5 minutes, 2 minutes. And if you see something's consistent and it's not matching the headline that you just freaked out over, that means it's not true. And there's actually websites that actually thrive in people reading fake news and actually freaking out. It gives them the clout.